Recording in progress.
So the last verse that we read was in text 8. Rasoham Apsakanteya Prabhasmi Shishurya. So Krishna is describing himself. So after declaring that there are two kinds of nature, born, one is material, one is spiritual, Krishna starts describing that everything rests on him like the pearls rest on the thread of a pearl necklace. So similarly, now Krishna's utilizing that and talking about himself, that I am the taste of the water, I'm the light of the sun and the moon, I'm the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras, and I'm the sound and ether and ability in man. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penance of all ascetics. O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existence, the intelligence of the intelligent, the prowess of all powerful men. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. So, is Krishna bragging? What do you guys think? How do you take this? Is Krishna bragging about himself? Why is he saying these things? I couldn't hear you, Prayash. One more time.
Krishna is letting know that how are.
I have no idea what you're saying. Okay, somebody else? What is Krishna doing in these verses?
Prabhuji, he is telling that I am the Supreme.
And why is that important?
Because it is the ultimate truth.
Krishna, why is it important for Krishna to speak that he is a Supreme? Krishna is not near his mic, I guess. I saw Vibhuti Mataji and Janak Prabhu unmute. If you guys want to say something. Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
So, Prabhuji, is it because he wants to instill confidence in Arjuna and also faith?
Okay.
So that once Arjuna develops his faith, he will be able to benefit more from what he is.
Okay. That makes sense. What else? Indranath, want to try?
Yeah, so like Krishna is telling that it is sweet because the thing is that you gave one type example that a CEO of a company always says that I am the CEO of the company. He won't say that I am working here as a manager or something.
Okay. So, let's understand this. Krishna is speaking to his dear friend. And 6 chapters have gone by where he has set the stage. And then in 7th chapter, he just says, I'm going to reveal some secrets with you. Material life, he describes different things about matter, that matter and spirit both come from us. And let me explain both to you. Here is what matter is made up of. And here is what spirit is made up of. And the source of both is me. So here is who I am. So Krishna is revealing about himself. So let's say you're in hiding, and your friend doesn't know that you are a big deal. That's sort of a big deal, and you start revealing yourself. So it's kind of what Krishna is doing, because Arjuna has always known him as a friend, but here Krishna is actually revealing about himself, not as a show off, but as a means of stating the truth. It's the introduction, right? He's introducing himself, that all these different things. So he has already said matter and spirit come from me. Now he's getting into details about how you can perceive that they all come from Krishna. So after the rain, when that smell of earth comes, right? That beautiful smell of earth. I don't know if you have experienced it. I have. That monsoon, that fresh rain, earth smell. That is Krishna. The taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, that is coming from Krishna, right? Then he says the sound of the Om, right? He talks about the penances of the ascetics, the tapasya that the tapasvis do, the ability in man, the intelligence of the intelligent, all of those things that we appreciate, they're all coming from Krishna, right? So when you say, okay, matter and spirit both are coming from Krishna, it's like, okay, fine. Okay, no biggie. But now Krishna is going into nuances so that it is, of course, all of you said the right things. You mentioned about his, stating his supremacy as a Lord. He's stating, Janak Prabhu said, inspiring Arjuna, so he feels more inspired and motivated. True. It's also true that Arjuna is also, Krishna is also trying to help us remember him, right? These are things, if we can remember Krishna, when we smell that earth or hear the word Om, or see somebody with great abilities, somebody with great intelligence, right? When we see the sunlight or the moonlight, right? All of these things should remind us where this is coming from, all the splendor that we have on this planet. Where is that? Who's the source of all this planet? Just like, there are certain gifts, like somebody gifted me the Apple Watch. Whenever I wear that watch, I feel grateful to that person who gave me that gift, or somebody who said something that inspired me and continues to, whenever I remember those words, they inspire me. I feel grateful to that person. So similarly, these are opportunities to see things that are within our perception, because we cannot see Krishna, at least at this stage, so easily. You can see the deity form, but we can perceive Krishna and his presence in our lives through his energies, through his manifestations, through his splendor, right? Through his gifts. So we can be grateful. Wow, Krishna, thank you for all of these wonderful things. Let me be grateful. Let me be able, have the ability to see beyond what is just, let's not take things for granted, right? That's one thing we do, especially us who are Indians. We do that when our parents do our upbringing. We take it like, well, they gave birth to us, so they're supposed to take care of us. What's the big deal, right? Going to America, I saw every time children say thank you to their parents with gratitude, as if parents are doing a favor. And I came to the understanding of like, yeah, you know what? After the age of 16 or 18, they don't have to do anything. Anything they do beyond that age is a favor, and we should be grateful for it. And anything beyond, before that also, we should be grateful for. We shouldn't take it for granted. What to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who, parents this life only, but the Supreme Lord Krishna, life after life after life after life, whether we are born in a pig family, whether we're born in a Brahmana family, whether we're born in a demigod family, wherever we are, Krishna has never left us. He's always there as super soul. So we can be grateful. And these instances should remind us that somebody is paying the credit card bill that is allowing us to live the life of luxury that we're living, right? We saw how much oxygen costs during the second wave, how difficult it was. And we have been breathing so much oxygen throughout our lives, without ever thinking, I need to pay someone for it, right? But someone is paying for it, and that is Krishna. So these are ways to understand that source of all sources in clear, picturesque way, perception that it's coming from Krishna. And also these are triggers to remember Krishna, which is always a wonderful thing, right? That's the highest principle. Always remember Krishna, never forget him. At least for bhaktas, that's the highest principle. Always remember Krishna, never forget him. If we can do that, we are in Krishna consciousness. When we forget Krishna, we are in Maya consciousness. What happens when we are in Maya consciousness? Harsh, what happens when we are in Maya consciousness?
We are in full of illusion, Prabhu. Like I've experienced it many times. Like we don't know what is what actually good for us and what is actually bad for us. We are
The bad thing starts
we are
looking good.
directly what we call.
So illusion is the bad thing starts
actually.
looking good and the good thing starts looking bad, right? So that's Maya. So when that happens, it's Maya consciousness. Yes, Yogesh Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I wanted to say that we are always in the mode of ignorance, and we are. Sorry, I'm not able to hear my voice. So.
I can hear you.
Okay, so we are always in the mode of ignorance, and we are always passionate about things for the majority of our times, and we forget Krishna. Is what I think happens when you are in the mode of Maya.
And what happens in the mode of goodness?
In the mode of goodness, we always remember Krishna.
Really?
And whatever work we do, we give it to Krishna.
Mode of goodness is also Maya. Krishna consciousness is Shuddha Sattva, beyond the mode of goodness.
Okay.
And also don't beat up yourself. You're not always in mode of ignorance. We switch from mode to mode, depending on time, place, and circumstance. But yes, mode of Maya consciousness is when things that are beneficial to us start looking attractive and things or not attractive, and things that are not beneficial to us, they look attractive. And we are in forgetfulness of Krishna. So we do things, we say things without a proper understanding, and it leads to nowhere, or it leads to circles. What is a circle? We go up and down, round and round, right? So from Earth planet to heavenly planet to hellish planets to Earth planet to heavenly planet, we're just going in circles, not going out, not going anywhere. To cut that journey and go back home, back to Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. Tivrena, like intense Bhakti Yoga, is like an arrow that doesn't stop anywhere, doesn't bend anywhere. It directly goes from here to the lotus feet of Krishna. So that's Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. So intense bhakti, direct lotus feet of Krishna, no distractions. So anyway, so let's talk about this last part. I'm the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. Very interesting. What does that mean?
Not having extramarital.
Not having?
Also, not having extramarital. All sorts of things which are only self gratification.
I couldn't hear a few words, but I think I get the essence. Okay. What else? Yes, Janak Prabhu.
Prabhu, we are hearing our own echoes, Prabhu.
I don't know what to do about that. I'll mute myself. Go ahead, Janak.
Yeah, so I think regarding this, the conception of married life is the most common one which we think about dharma. But I think Prabhupada has said beyond that if we, indulge in sex life only to procreate Krishna conscious children, that is the right dharma. So,
okay.
Read and
so Krishna is saying, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. So there's two ways of reading it. One way of reading it is that sex life is okay. It is not contrary to religious principles. The other way of reading it is, I am that sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. So extramarital affairs or teenage pregnancy or whatever, all of those things that are outside the bounds of marriage, that is not Krishna conscious sex life. A Krishna conscious sex life is within the confounds of a committed married relationship with one partner, or in the Vedic period, there were multiple partners, but with marriage. So there is polygamy that the Vedic system is to allow for the Kshatriyas, for example. right? You see so many kings having so many wives, sometimes 100 wives. But the point is, it's not just marrying them, it is also providing for them. Each queen would have their own palace and their entourage of maidservants and jewelry and clothes and children, and all of them would have to be taken care of. So it's a big responsibility. In Kali Yuga, one man can take care of one woman. That's a big achievement, what to speak of so many. But the point is, sex life only within married, committed relationship. So I am sex life, which is not against religious principles. So that is Krishna. Why is it Krishna conscious? Because it is the only opportunity to attract great souls to this world, right? When demigods die, for example, great souls, how do they come to this world? Through the milk, through the semen of the man into the woman, and thereby there. So, just to give you all, since you all have been in Krishna consciousness for long enough, there is a process where the man and the woman, there is Garbhodhan Samskara, where the womb is sanctified before the act of procreation happens. And in ISKCON, especially, Srila Prabhupada actually recommended that the man and the woman, both of them chant 50 rounds, 50 rounds. 16 rounds takes 2 hours. So I know some people who did that, and they have given birth to amazing Krishna conscious children. My best friend being one of them, right? I mean, he was chatting, I was also chatting here. So it's not like a secret thing, it's an open thing where, everybody, or not everybody, but close persons know that, tonight this is going to happen, and there's going to be a child that's going to come as a result of this, and everybody's praying and chanting that a wonderful soul is attracted who can be a wonderful devotee and spread the movement far and wide. So it's from a lusty act, it becomes actually a very sacred act, a Krishna conscious act, and thereby it attracts Krishna conscious souls that can do tremendous benefit to this world. We know in terms of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, had many children, but he made a special prayer to the Lord saying, "My Lord, send me a ray of Vishnu, one of your, emissaries." And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was that person. And when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was born, it was Rath Yatra time. The Rath Yatra cart, the chariot, or Jagannath's chariot, actually stopped. So the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's house, or Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a district magistrate of Puri at the time. So his house was right on Grand Road where the chariot passes by. So the chariot stopped, Jagannath stopped, and it wouldn't move. And devotees were pulling, the chariot wouldn't move. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mother was like, "Oh, the Lord has stopped in front of our house. Let me quickly take my baby and go up to the chariot and put my baby at the Lord's feet." And as soon as she put Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at the feet of Lord Jagannath, a garland fell from Lord Jagannath to the neck of Bhaktisiddhanta, again proving that there's a great soul. So that's a beauty. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, although a great acharya in a line of disciplic succession, he had 10 children, and all of them were amazingly brilliant, but Bhaktisiddhanta was exponentially brilliant. By the age of 19, he had his own, wrote the Surya Siddhanta, which scholars take a lifetime to read. He had read it and written a book on it. He could read any book and memorize it, right? So he was a brilliant person and a brilliant devotee. And he established the Gaudiya Math, 64 different maths all over India. And his disciple Srila Prabhupada established 108 temples around the world and brought Krishna consciousness to the world. So that's our legacy of disciplic succession. Srila Prabhupada was also a married man with children. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a married man with children. And many acharyas in our disciplic succession were married men with many children. And the point of that is we don't distinguish between, if you are married and you have a sex life, you cannot be spiritually enlivened, or you have to give up everything to be a spiritualist. That's not the case. That's not the case that Krishna refers to in the Bhagavad Gita, and that's not the case for definitely for bhaktas. So that's important to understand. Now, any questions on this topic? Feel free to be, if you want to ask anything controversial, no hesitation, just ask. Okay. Wow, this is the first time I'm reading this verse and there are no questions in the audience. Either I'm doing a terrible job explaining things to you, or you're all understanding everything perfectly.
May I ask, sir?
Thank you. Yes, please.
Sir, like as you said, Srila Prabhupada, मतलब उन्होंने उनके वाइफ को छोड़ दिया था, like you or me or T, like ऐसा बोल के उन्होंने छोड़ दिया था. Then he is successful. He became successful in spirituality. ऐसा मेरे को लगता है. So actually essence क्या है?
ऐसा नहीं है. Prabhupada was always successful. As a devotee, he was always successful. He was always glorified by his own guru. He was glorified by his god brothers. As an entrepreneur, he was successful. But after his children grew up, after he was done with his business life or active life, when it was time for retirement, that's when this incident happened, when his wife, she never really helped him or supported him in his spiritual pursuit. But this time it was horrible. He wrote the whole Bhagavad Gita as it is that we have today. We don't have that. That Bhagavad Gita she sold to buy tea. And that's when Srila Prabhupada was hurt. And he asked, me or tea? And wife chose tea over him. And he took it as an indication. And Prabhupada left. And he was not successful. Vishal, he struggled like anything after that. He left everything. Like he had no money, he had no home. He was practically a beggar. And he struggled like that for years, till finally somebody gave him a ticket to go to America, where also he struggled for a year. And after that, the hippies became happies and we had the whole ISKCON movement. So struggle wasn't over just because he left his wife. He left his wife to dedicate full time on translation of these books and Krishna conscious pursuits, taking up sannyas, etc. But struggles continued. But yes, it was the right time to give up family life. So in our system, there's brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. So by the end of 50 years of age, it is said one should take vanaprastha or retirement. In the modern context, it might be 60 years of age, because that's when people retire, 60, 65. But there needs to be a time when people should be like, okay, done with family life. Now let me focus purely on my spiritual pursuit. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to give up your wife. If you take sannyas, then yes, you have to give up your wife. But the vanaprastha life, you can be with your wife, but you're done with all your earning, all your active duty of taking care of your kids and this duty and that duty, purely focusing on spiritual life. That's the idea. Not everybody can do it, but it is recommended. If one can, one has that freedom, one should do it. Does it help, Vishal?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, Harsh is saying in this Zoom audio setting, microphone to be set to Zoom H4. Is it not in Zoom H4? It is. And I don't know how I have Zoom H4. Okay, all right. Anyway, are you guys all having issues with hearing?
Yes,
Whenever somebody else is speaking, there is an echo. When you are speaking, there is no echo.
Okay, when I am speaking, there's echo.
No.
No, okay, when you are speaking, there's echo.
Yes, when any one of us.
Achha, got it. Okay, my apologies. Sorry. Okay, all right, moving on to the next verse. Any other questions? Okay, let me see. There's something in the chat section. Yes, only when you are speaking. Okay. No, okay. No questions. Okay, moving on to the next verse. Somebody wants to read text 12. Yogesh Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhu, I came in late. Someone else can do it.
It's chapter 7, text 12, Prabhu. Go ahead.
Okay. ये चैव सात्विक भाव राजस तामस च ये मत्त एवेति तन्विद्धि न त्वं तेषु ते मयि. So know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Purport: all material activities.
Purport is fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, so this is very important to understand that Sattva, Raja, Tama, which are the material energies, they're coming from Krishna. Krishna is independent though. And he says, I am not under the modes of material nature, for they on the contrary are within me. The modes of material nature are within Krishna, but Krishna is not influenced by them. They come from, they are Krishna's Maya potency, illusory energy. So sometimes Mayavadis, that's what they're called, Mayavadis. They say, people say, oh, you've forgotten your God. Because you're under the illusion. You fall under Maya, that's why you've forgotten your God. By proper cultivation of spiritual consciousness, slowly you'll realize that you're God. And God never forgets that he's God. Even as a baby, Krishna would kill demons. Even as a young prince, he was killing demons. He was dancing with the gopis. He was all attractive. He was him as a baby, as a 7-year-old, as a 12-year-old, as a 16-year-old, as a 125-year-old. Krishna was always Krishna, or Krishna is always Krishna. He never forgets who he is. God never forgets. We are not God. So this verse specifically, Krishna is saying, I am independent of the 3 modes of material energy. He is not bound by the modes. We are influenced by modes. God is not bound by the modes. They are God's energy. For example, the home minister, he can instruct the police to do blah, blah. The police cannot tell the home minister, you do something, or influence the home minister, right? Unless he screws up really badly. But in this case, Krishna, so Maya is Krishna's energy. And he says thereafter that, what does he say? What's that verse? Anybody remembers? Maya dhakshena prakriti suya tetu characharam. That I am the superintendent of Maya. I'm the boss of Maya, right? So he's the boss of Maya, so he cannot fall under Maya. So it's very important when you get into an argument with a Mayavadi, if you ever have the misfortune of getting into an argument with a Mayavadi, this verse will come to your rescue. Because Mayavadi will tell you, you've forgotten that you're God and you've come under Maya. Once you get over Maya, you'll realize you're God. And you can say God does not come under Maya because Maya is God's energy and God is the boss of Maya, right? So we are humans, we are Jiva. We can never become God and we don't aspire to be either. Any questions on this one?
Yes, Prabhu. What is a main difference between Mahamaya and Yogamaya, Prabhu?
Okay, so Mahamaya is Durga Devi, where she is keeping us under the illusion so we can forget Krishna. And Yogamaya is the illusory potency that Krishna uses in the spiritual world. That's, Purnamasi. So she makes sure everybody is under illusion in the spiritual world, so they don't realize Krishna is God. So everybody is so much in God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, that if they realize he is God, they will not be acting freely with Krishna. So they are put under illusion to the point that they don't realize Krishna is God. They see Krishna as a lover, as a friend, as a son, as a wow, great personality, but they don't see him as God. That's the Yoga Maya potency. So there is also Yoga Maya, here is Mahamaya. There, forgetful is not there, here forgetful is there. Here we forget Krishna in Maya. There in Maya, they are always in Krishna consciousness, but they don't forget, but rather they forget the fact that Krishna is God. And thereby they act very intimately with God. They can dance with Krishna, play tug of war with Krishna. They can, hug him, kiss him. They can do anything, which is not possible when you realize. So Narayan, you don't play games with Narayan. You don't tell Narayan to dance. You're scared. You're like, wow, okay, lotus feet, please. Hare Krishna. But with Krishna, you can do anything. That's because they're in Yoga Maya. Yeah. Okay. 8:10. Any questions? Prabhuji, before the Bhagavad Gita as it is, which version was read by Vaishnavas? Hare Krishna. There are many. So in our disciplic succession, there has been, just like Prabhupada compiled this in English, there were Sanskrit and Bengali Bhagavad Gitas written by previous acharyas. And the meaning is not different. The essence is not different. In fact, Srila Prabhupada read those only and compiled those into the English version of Bhagavad Gita, which we call Bhagavad Gita as it is. But it's the same Bhagavad Gita. The Sanskrit is the same. Even in Mayavadi or Brahmavadi versions, the Sanskrit is the same. That has not changed. The way people translate it to their advantage is a little different. But if you look at the 4 sampradayas, the Shri Sampradaya coming from Lakshmi Devi, the Rudra Sampradaya coming from Lord Shiva, the Brahma Madhava Gauri Sampradaya coming from Lord Brahma, and the Chatushkumar Sampradaya, right? Nimbarka Sampradaya. So these 4 sampradayas, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, coming in disciplic succession, the essence is exactly same. The priorities might be slightly different here and there, but the essence is same. Like our priority is, we are more focused on Radha Krishna, the conjugal loving affairs. In Shri Sampradaya or the Lakshmi Sampradaya, where Tirupati Balaji and others you see, in that Sampradaya, they focus more on the awe and reverence, Aishwarya Bhav. God is great. So you see from far away, they're offering great prayers, very reverential, diamonds. You never see Radha Krishna in any ISKCON temple wearing diamonds and gold. He's wearing Vanamali, forest flowers, right? Little things that you get freely, cheaply. That's Krishna, his intimate form. Because it's the Radha Krishna Vrindavan mood. But in different sampradayas, the mood might be different, but the translations and the purports, the essence is the same. Anything outside this might or might not be bona fide. Does it answer your question? Okay. This was Ashwin. Ashwin, I don't know if you're able to hear me. Ayushi is asking, Hare Krishna, why does Mahamaya keep us under illusion, Prabhuji? So nice question. So the fact that we have come to this material world, it's a choice that we made. Why did we make the choice? To enjoy separately from Krishna, to be the center of enjoyment. In the spiritual world, Krishna is the center of enjoyment. In the material world, we want to enjoy without Krishna. As a result, the design is not that we can be the enjoyers. The design is we are supposed to be subservient to the Supreme Lord. But when we want to enjoy something, Krishna has created the system of illusion where Mahamaya allows us to forget Krishna so that we can act like gods. Of course, we suffer as a result, but that's what we want and that's what is given to us. The moment we realize there is God, there is a supreme person, There is my father, my creator. There is surrender. There is reverence. There is immediately, like, we submissively, offer ourselves to that personality. And that is Krishna consciousness. And that is the reality. That's where we feel protection and sheltered. Whereas the other side is what we want to enjoy without Krishna being the boss, being the Lord, being the God, the Hiranyakashipu mentality. That cannot happen unless Durga Devi puts us under illusion that, yes, you're God. Yes, there is happiness in matter. So because we want to enjoy this way, like video games, a child wants to play video games. While the child is playing the video game, he or she is under illusion, enjoying that I am driving this car at a fast speed and shooting guns and doing this and doing that, right? So that's illusion, but that's what the child wants to experience. Fast car, because you don't have a license to drive a real car, right? I used to play video games fast car, and then once I started driving, I was driving my own fast car. so that's different forms of illusion, of course. So that's why Durga Devi creates that, because we wanted that. That's our reason to be in the material world. Doesn't answer your question? Ashwin, and then Ragini Mataji is asking, what is the mystery behind Nidhivan? Please describe it. Okay, Ayushi is asking, so Prabhuji, the basic purpose of doing this is just because to bring the human back to Krishna. Yes, you got it. To come back to our original form. You turn off the video game at some point, right? And then mother says, hey, lunchtime or dinner time, and you get back to real life. So similarly, this is kind of the illusory world we're living in. And then eventually we get the call from Krishna, hey, you're not happy? But that's not where you're supposed to be. Come back to me. You'll be happy here. This is where you belong. This is your home. He's inviting us back. Prabhuji, all the followers of Advait Vedant are Mayavadis. I'm not going to stamp or label anyone, Ashwin. All I'm going to say is, if people say they're God, they're an illusion. And because they're under Maya, they're called Mayavadis. And they believe that God can fall under Maya. That's why they're called Mayavadis. Because their understanding of God is, we are all God and we have fallen under Maya, so we forgot we're God. If the followers of Advait Vedant are like that, then they are Mayavadis. If not, they're not. So I would not brand an organization for a certain purpose. Go with what they teach and what they preach, and that will tell you who they are. That's how Srila Prabhupada would identify. There was Nietzsche and Descartes and all these Western philosophers. And Prabhupada would say, I have never heard of them, but tell me what they preach, and I'll tell you if they are right or not, or to what degree they are right? So don't judge people based on where they belong from. Judge people on what they preach and what they believe in. It's not our place to judge anyway, sorry. Don't judge people. But if you have to make the distinction whether I should listen from this person or not, that's when you make that judgmental conclusion. Okay, going back to Ragini Mataji. Hare Krishna, what's the mystery behind Nidhivan? Ragini Mataji, you do as much as I do. Honestly, I don't know. I have not experienced it. What I hear is that Radha and Krishna in the Nidhivan at night, there are pastimes that happen even today. People are not allowed there. Monkeys run away at 5 p.m. or just as sunset happens, monkeys run away, birds run away. No living entities are found in the Nidhivan. They say that one time somebody hid there and next morning he was found dead because he couldn't, it was too much to handle what you see there in Nidhivan. It is also stated that all the trees, not stated, it is there, you can go see, I've been there many times. The trees are all hiding in kind of a bent form. And if you see the roots are dry and pretty much dead, but the leaves are green. And every morning you see the roots are decorated with sindoor. And I don't know what the Hindi word for it is, abir, which is like, the holy that you play with. So gulal, that's at the feet of these trees. So they say those trees are actually gopis. And they start dancing at night, and Radha and Krishna are personally there. And then during the day, they are in the form of trees. and that's what is spoken. Again, I have no realization. I am just telling you what I've heard. We have been fortunate actually to be there many times, but that's the extent of my knowledge. I have not heard anything from the disciplic succession much to say. I mean, but it's in Vraj. It's next to Seva Kunj. It's a very special place, and that's what. If there's, whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. The point is, it's in Vraj. It's in a holy place, and it's holy. Chant there. Be happy, and if you experience something wonderful, do share with us. Okay, 8:20. Should we do one more verse? Also, let me see if there are any questions. Ragni Mati, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Okay, when we go to Vrindavan, Mataji, we can go to Nidhivan for sure, and you can see for yourself. All right, text 13. Somebody wants to read text 13?
May I, Prabhuji? May I?
Go ahead, please.
त्रिभिर गुणमय भारवरेभि सर्वमिदं जगतः मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्य परमव्ययम्. Translation: deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible.
Mataji, would you kindly read the next verse also?
Okay. Devi Hosha Gurmai Mam Maya Durtaya Mavev Ye Trapdyate Maya Metam Taranti Se.
Translation?
Okay. The divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
Thank you so much. All right. So first Krishna says that these energies are mine. They're manifested from me, material and spiritual energy. And then he says that these three modes of nature also are my energies, but I am independent. I am not affected by them. But deluded by these energies, the whole world does not know me, who I am above the modes and that I am above the modes and inexhaustible. So people who are under Maya, they do not know Krishna, and they do not know the fact that he is beyond Maya. And the next verse he says, Daiviyesha gunamai mama maya duratya mamevaya prapaddante maya metam tarantite. So this divine energy of mine, right, consisting of the three modes of Maya, or three modes of material nature. So Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, although they are material energy, they are divine energy of Krishna. Those who surrender unto Krishna, it becomes easy to cross over. But those who are in these, under the influence of these modes, it's difficult to overcome. So it is impossible to overcome Maya. Done. Krishna is giving the secret here, the key, the password is, how do you get over Maya? By surrendering unto me. Daivi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Durataya. Durataya means very difficult to overcome. Mamevaya Prapadyanti. Those who surrender unto me. Maya Metam Tarantite. Tarantite as in overcome or crossover. Those who surrender unto me, the ocean becomes as small as water collected in the hoof print of a calf. Not even a cow. The hoof print of, this is coming from Srimad Bhagavatam. Similar verse in Srimad Bhagavatam also is there. That one who surrenders unto Krishna, this ocean of material energy reduces into a little hoof print of a calf. And how difficult it is to overcome a hoof print? You just cross over, done. That's how easy it becomes to overcome Maya. So Durga, the name Durga comes from Durgamana. This Durg, this fort, material world, it's a prison cell. It is impossible to overcome this. On top of that, we're an illusion. We're not even trying to get out of it, right? When you're in jail and you don't even know that you're in jail, you will not try to get out of jail. Simple. So similarly, when we don't know we're in jail, we don't try to get out of it. When we come to Krishna consciousness, oh, this was all suffering. Oh, yes, I am suffering. How do I get out of this suffering? Ah, there is a process. Oh, and when Durga Devi sees that we are sincere, she stops the three modes of nature from acting on us. She's like, Krishna actually tells her, hey, my jurisdiction, my devotee is sincere or she's sincere. Durga, you go bother somebody else. Put somebody else in Maya, not my devotees. So to the degree we surrender to Krishna, to that degree, Durga Devi also moves away. To the degree we surrender to Krishna, to that degree, the effect of Maya or the effect of modes of goodness and passion and ignorance go away. What does that mean? What's the effect of goodness? I am feeling holy. Sometimes too holy, holier than thou. I feel like doing charity and this and that because I'm better than others. Mode of passion. I have to win. No matter who, no matter what, I have to get that award. I have to get that money. I have to get that promotion. Mode of ignorance. Oh, it's okay. You're good. I'm good. We're all good. Illusion. Yeah, my deepest level of illusion, mode of ignorance. But these influences don't impact us when we are in Krishna consciousness. We are awake. We are not influenced by, we're not sleep driving. There's something that says, go right, we're going right. Go left, we're going left. Drink this, eat that, watch this, do that. Go with the flow. Dead fish go with the flow. We are not dead fish. We wake up in Krishna consciousness and we make choices. Learn to say no to the mind. Learn to say no to choices that lead us away from Krishna. And learn to say yes to things that lead us towards Krishna. That's the choice we finally start having when our eyes are opened with the torchlight of knowledge from Krishna's words, from the Bhagavad Gita, from Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So, illusion, yes, impossible to overcome. People, that's why when we teach people about Bhagavad Gita, people are like, go away. It's for old age. Oh, go away. You're wasting time. Oh, go away. Those religious people. Oh, I don't have time for this nonsense. Daivi esha gunamai mama maya durataya. Durataya, difficult to overcome. But mameveya prapadyante, one who's suffering, it's like, maybe let me try out God. Maybe God can help me. Some surrender is there. Some shraddha is there. Some faith is there. God, will you help me? If you exist, can you do something for me? And Krishna is like, yes. He sends his devotees. He sends opportunities. He helps us. And he gives a realization, I am here. Hello, hello. I exist. I'm here for you. You called me. I responded. And it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer to us. Krishna exists. He's a part of my life. Although he's God, he's there with me in my heart as Paramatma. Oh, wow. And thus, Krishna is empowering Arjuna. He's telling Arjuna that this crying, this, he's going through this dilemma. I don't want to fight this war. Oh my God, I don't want to kill them. Dharma is do your duty, fight this war, do the right thing. And Arjuna is an illusion. It might seem like he's doing the right thing, being compassionate, not wanting to fight war. Ahimsa, right? Krishna is saying, in this case, himsa. That's the right thing. You're an illusion if you're thinking ahimsa is the path right now. In this case, you need to kill those people who did the wrong things, and you need to take over the ruling of this planet and do it the right way. That's your duty. So fight, stand up and fight to Arjuna. Multiple times Krishna tells Arjuna to do that. That's the understanding. So Krishna is pushing Arjuna in that direction. That Maya is difficult, but one who surrenders unto me, for him, it becomes very easy. So understand, chapter 7 is Krishna being more liberal, where he's speaking very directly as God. All these 6 chapters, he was talking in third person. Now he's speaking very directly. I am God. Surrender unto me, you'll get out of illusion. this dilemma, this direction, this depression that you're going through, Arjuna, surrender unto me, it'll go away. This is the first time Krishna is actually telling him, surrender. One who surrenders unto me is not deluded by these three modes of material nature. Okay. Any question? We have 1 minute left. Deepak, Prabhuji, when Arjuna is fighting, he under which mode? He may be Rajasic. No. Arjuna is fighting. Krishna is in the chariot. He's heard the Bhagavad Gita. We don't know, but chances are he is in bhakti mode, because that's the whole point. He's not fighting under the influence of the modes of nature. He's fighting under the instruction of Krishna, because on his own, he doesn't want to fight. Influenced by the mode of nature or influenced by Maya, he doesn't want to fight. Influenced by Krishna, he is fighting. So please understand that. Sometimes we think, oh, whatever, God will take care of things. सब कुछ भगवान के नाम छोड़ दिया है. That's not Krishna consciousness. That's Maya. Krishna consciousness is get up, act, fight. This is your duty. But fight for me. Fight in my consciousness. Fight with the right principles. That's what Krishna is here for. So Arjun was not he's not a common person like us. He is Krishna's eternal companion. So he has heard the Bhagavad Gita and he is fighting in that spirit of bhakti. Instruction that he says, Karishya Vachanam Tava. Krishna, whatever you say, I will do that. And under that instruction, he's doing his duty as a warrior fighting this war. Now, does he come under illusion? Yes. When Abhimanyu dies, his son is killed brutally. Of course, he starts crying and he is again consumed. Again, Krishna is there, waking him up and helping him through, right? That's what Krishna is doing for us also. We don't notice it, but he's doing that for us. He's waking us up. Sometimes you'll get a call from me, or you'll get some Bhagavad Gita, some YouTube video that will inspire you, or some kirtan that will bring you back, right? So Krishna is there to kind of dispel our illusion and bring us back on the path of Krishna consciousness. So he's always there, but it is us who have to accept Krishna's help. If you're eager to accept Krishna's help, it'll work. If we are like ignoring Krishna, then what can he do? Krishna will be like, hey, I'm not going to tinker with your free will. You don't want me? Fine, I won't be there near you. You want me? You invite me? I will be there right next to you, unconditionally. All right, with this, enjoy and worship and pray during this holy month of Damodar, Kartik month. And I wish you all the best. Happy Damodar month. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a good night.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.